Hello, welcome in. Oh, doing lives. It's such fun, isn't it? It really, really is. And let's just settle that all down now. Thank you. Here we go. Welcome into Chi Time TV. Here on a bit of a muggy afternoon here in Avalon. Got Jamie Catto with me to chat about his journey with Qigong. Because I noticed that you've been on Chi Time a few times before, Jamie, and you've mentioned Qigong. We can't not mention Qigong, really. It underpins everything. I thought I've never actually spoken to you directly about this topic. So Jamie, as you may or may not know, is a musician and a award-winning, groundbreaking documentary film director, maker, and catalyst for change. You know, he knows how to tickle you into the change that you need to do next. Although it's not always tickling that you do, is it, Jamie? But he's also an author and a super dad of three, well, women and young girls. How old's your youngest?
14, coming up 15.
Oh, so she's a young woman as well, eh? Wow.
I know. And a mean electric guitar player now with her foot up on the monitor.
Oh,
she's rocking out.
Well, why not? I remember that lovely chat that I had with your other lass on Chi Time a while back. But this show, we're also going to be repurposing the audio for UK Health Radio for my show on there called OneQi, which is all about this community of Qigong teachers and Qigong players that are realizing we have a lot more in common than just saying, oh, my Qi's better than your Qi. That's very brief overview, and so it'd be really fascinating to speak with you, Jamie, about how you got into Qigong and how it supports you, assuming that that's what it does. I know that that's what it does for me. So I remember in the last interview that we did about, I think it was when One Giant Leap came out again. It's about a year ago on Chi Time. And we started talking about how, I think I said to you, are you a scholar of Taoism? And then you said, what did you say? You did say something about that you were actually inventing your own ancient Chinese lineage.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad I said that, because that's what I would say today as well. For you, I am consistent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Qigong for me, is, so many different ways in I could start. The first thing is that the key skill for all of the practices we teach in the Insanely Gifted school, or Insanely Gifted stuff that we do, whether it be the Transforming Shadows workshop, or What About Intimacy, or creative workshops, all of them, they all require, in order to play the games, in order to do the processes and the explorations, they all require being equally outside connected with you there, but equally internal, having a constant intimacy with how the inside is feeling. And that includes whether it be different emotions, tightness in the solar plexus, tenderness behind the heart, or it might be just how energy is moving, rushes of heat or excitement or resistance, all these kinds of things, which are the topography of traveling through one's own inner landscape, are felt in the body. And Qigong is the great practice for developing sensitivity, for feeling all the different textures and flavors and energies and emotions and organs interacting with each other, if you want to go really deep, which is what's always going on, and an intimacy with that process, which is essential for so many things. It's essential for self-care, which is a cornerstone of our thing, because you can't know what you need unless you can feel yourself. It's essential for health, for just sort of circulation, for breathing, for allowing feelings to be felt, because we're so in escape of our feelings. One of the greatest problems we have as a human race is that we think we should always be comfortable, and anytime we feel anything with the slightest edge, we want to escape it. So having an intimacy with all the spectrum of different flavored feelings and textures and everything is an essential part of, is Qigong is amazing for, and is really the template. Also, the body scan, that's a very key part of Qigong, is a very essential part of our practices, again, to not just know what I'm feeling, but where am I feeling it, and how can I breathe and welcome it rather than turn away from it, which is a radical thing to do in our culture, to turn towards sensation and internal things rather than run straight to the fridge and put something in our mouth when it doesn't feel normal. So from the self-care point of view, from meeting the different characters and how they want to talk to us if we're doing more shadowy stuff, for meeting old kind of blockage which is still governing our lives, but we're not realizing it. So many times there are these unconscious old blockages which are stopping you from going to parties or joining in, or stopping you sharing your gifts or hanging your thing on the wall, or stopping you from feeling sexy and free with your partner and joyful in your juiciness. Those things don't present as this happened when you were 5. That's not what comes into our mind. We just feel a bit tired and not in the mood. That's the way the unconscious directs us, but it doesn't tell us it's because of some old blockage. It just makes you think, nah, don't think I will today. And that's a huge prison and a huge limit on the trajectory of all the places we could journey and enjoy and experience before we die. And again, Qigong for feeling into and being willing to feel that internal journey. It is the ultimate research item and skill set expander of that internal world, which is essential for all self-care, for all creativity, for all expressions of excitement, for our sexuality, and for our general health. If you want to go into the Qigong stuff of, the seasonal elements that, the liver is wood, green, spring, the kidneys are dark blue, water, winter, the lungs are white, air or metal if you're really hardcore. And each of the organs in Qigong has a virtue and a vice. So if you want to breathe in kindness into the liver and let go of anger, or breathe in gentleness into the kidneys and let go of fear, they will help you process that. Breathe in courage into the lungs and let go of grief. To have those access points and those valves and those doorways, to have that system is very, very useful if you're someone that wants to process emotion and organ health. So, the inner smile part of Qigong is an incredible skill to have. Qigong is just full of so many life skills that are totally relevant to my workshops, my life. My workshops are an expression of my life, really, of how I try at my best moments to live and be healthy and be self-caring and be creative and intimate. So Qigong has a cornucopia of skills for practicing all the things I think are important in the world.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Where did you first come across Qigong? How did it find you?
It found me through Tai Chi, as I'm sure it does for a lot of people. Tai Chi is a little bit like the sort of Radio 1 of Qigong. It's the sort of, the entry point and the easier, like the sort of, it's more like you're doing the movements. So, they say that when you're doing Tai Chi, some of the movements, you're actually also massaging your internal organs at the same time when you do it right. But through Tai Chi, I discovered Qi. And through that, breathing into the lower dantian, there's a massive overlap between Tai Chi and Qigong, because, of course, you're still moving the energy around inside while you're doing the movements, and you're still generating it in your belly, and you're still pulling it up your spine, opening your microcosmic orbit, getting the loop going with the tongue to the roof of the mouth. And I've never been the tongue to the roof of the mouth very successful with that, but I think it's still moving anyway. So the massive overlap between Tai Chi and Qigong is the body's energy system, of course. And so that's how I discovered it. So through Tai Chi, obviously in my 20s, the first thing you want to check out is, how can I make sex better with this? And there are a lot of books from Tai Chi and Qigong, from Mantak Chia's books and other ones. Bruce Francis more recently brought out their wonderful encyclopedic book of Tao sexual meditation. And Bruce Francis is like, the lineage holder, water lineage, recognized the world over as the extraordinary. His books are incredible, and his videos. So he and Mantak Chia particularly, and other people, have written a lot of handbooks for people on how to enhance their sex lives through health and moving the qi, and joining with each other in moving the qi, figure eight between each other. So, and many other things. I mean, I'm just chucking in random things, but that was my entry point, is obviously Tai Chi, then the sexual stuff, and then that just leads to general Qigong and all the organs and different things that are exciting about it, because it's so, once you start feeling it, like most people start feeling it by someone showing them how to make a Qi ball. And just by very slightly pulling away, you feel it pulling in, and very slightly pushing it together, you feel it pushing back, and you get this like magnetic ball of, oh wow, I can really feel that. And when someone feels that, it's quite good to do it the first few times stoned, because it really enhances being able to feel it, And I know a lot of Qigong teachers that say that, have a joint the first few times you're practicing, so you can really map and feel it, 'cause it really like lights it up. And then you don't need the dope afterwards, but just as a way to first feel and go, that's what it feels like. Marijuana can be a very, very good enhancer.
That's very interesting you say that, Jamie, because do you think it makes you more aware of your internal landscape? You're going more internal when you get a bit high. It's all kind of, you're coming out away from the outside and into the
that's going
internal
on.
realm. Yeah,
I would say. And definitely it's an enhancer of feeling anyway, marijuana. And also some people believe, and I think I might be one of them, that it's the most yin substance on the planet. And it wakes up your yin, your receptivity, your in an amazing way. And that's why so many it's more men smoke pot than women, I think, and certainly the circles I've moved in, because it's like the men need this feminine, it's like a very feminine hit. And it makes you very, very receptive to either to great ideas or to great music, or you have a hit of a pipe and go and see the new Star Wars movie. You get receptive to all the special effects. You're like, whoa, like it really makes your appreciation and your sensitivity raised. That's why when you're depressed, or when I'm depressed or anxious or heartbroken, it's the worst time for me to smoke, because it just makes it much fucking worse. It's like a enhancer. So it's very, I'm not advocating becoming a pothead, but it definitely helps if you're someone who's wanting to feel the qi, and you've been doing qigong or tai chi exercises and you can't quite feel it. It can be a recommendation to have a little homeopathic dose.
Yeah.
Don't make hash cakes and trip. Don't traumatize yourself.
Or maybe just using CBD, so you don't get the THC, but you get the chill out anti-inflammatory factor.
I'm sure that stuff works. It's not really worked for me, but I think I'm the exception. People are really into it.
Okay. So you first was working with qi or playing with qi in your 20s. So that's several years ago now, isn't it?
Several years. Yeah, I'm actually earlier than that. I was doing it when I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
So some friends of mine, basically there was this guy in our circle who was a total martial arts freak, like hard styles. And him and his mate, he was called Paul, and he had a mate called Alex. And when they were 17 and they finished their A-levels, they took their year off to travel around the world and find as many martial arts masters as they could in China, Singapore, Japan, wherever they could find them. And they got taken in by these fucking amazing elders who are not alive anymore. And all of them said to them, yeah, your hard styles are great, but if you want the foundation, it's soft styles. And they spent the whole year doing Tai Chi and Qigong with these extraordinary elders, and came back and were told, now you can go and teach this properly, Wu style and Chen style, in England. And it just happened that I was in the same room as one of them, and we were watching TV, and I said, wow, that looks like Tai Chi, not knowing what Tai Chi was. I just sort of imagined that it was like slow-mo martial art. And so that's why I blurted it out. And the guy looked at me and went, well, what do you know about Tai Chi? And I said, well, I don't really know anything. I just think it's cool. And he goes, well, I just come back from Asia for a year, and I've been told to find one student to try out the things I've learned. Would you like to do it? And then he came and woke me up every morning at dawn for the next 60 days and took me into the park. And under a tree, as dawn broke and the tree was being sucked out of the ground by the tree, he taught me these 26 moves that I still do to this day, many of them. And my hand is so in the groove of them that I only need to think them and they start doing it themselves. It's like I literally have to use no effort to move my arms and body. It's in such a groove that my body knows already that it almost feels like my hands are hanging by my sides, yet they're moving by themselves. And that was a great luck for me. I've had many bits of luck like that in my life, and that was one of them.
Definitely. And this, the power of repetition. So the reason why your hands go into the groove is because you've done this practice over and over and over again. So as you say, you don't have to think it, it just runs, it flows.
Yeah.
So this and there's a thing about Qigong is the mother of Tai Chi, which is what you said. That I don't think you said mother, but that there's such a strong connection. There's a root of Tai Chi. In fact, some people say that Tai Chi is the most popular form of Qigong. I'm not quite sure what Tai Chi people would say about that, but and it is that with the Qigong you get to repeat the same move over and over again. So that classic beginning move of lifting, drawing the silk from the cocoon one, you get to do it over and over, and you get the chi, and you get the breath going with it, you get the rhythm of it, and it's like that's the joy, I think, to be able to get into the flow of moving with the rhythm of your breath and getting your busy mind out of the way, but engrossed in the moment of the flow and the breath. I just think it's a huge gift for us to come into this self-relationship of truth and honesty in that moment and let the breath lead. There seems to be something really powerful about letting your breathing lead. Yeah.
I mean, the mind gets out of the way, not because we're being noble or, like great warriors. It's because it's so delicious feeling that underwater feeling of the hands, of just feeling, you almost feel like a superhero in a way. You're feeling like you're commanding, or at least part of the absolute forces that are moving galaxies when you're doing Qigong, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not, you don't want to think of anything else, you know what I mean? It's so delicious.
That becomes then absorbing. I think there's this bridge between when you get into busy beta brain wave and we're all busy doing. It's like, yeah, the beings, it looks nice. I'd love to get into a bit of being, but I'm busy doing right now. And that bridge between busy beta and chilled out alpha theta is a bit of a thing to explore. And one of the ways that helps me is by using music and sound. Do you use sound or music when you're doing your own practice, or just okay?
Always. But again, I do that because I guess I do it just, I think I started doing it because it made it less boring, like it just sort of gave an atmosphere to make me sort of it more aesthetically just enjoyable. I have one album that I've used for years with Qigong, which is not particularly, it's melodic, but it's not like repetitive melodies that would distract you. It's more of an atmosphere, or more of an ambient album even, really. But it's not. It's called In a Silent Way by Miles Davis, which is 2 23-minute tracks. One's called Shh, Peaceful, and one's called In a Silent Way, and they're very spacious. They're slightly chaotic, but they're not chaotic in a sort of like distracting way. But they're very, and it's just like, there's something about excellence that connects to me to Qigong. Like, it's the cream of health. And there's something about doing it to music that is played by masters. Like the people you can imagine that Miles Davis chose, the other 3 or 4 people in the room with him while he was doing those live recordings, what they're doing isn't like the most advanced musical, or maybe it is, but you just know that each one would be a master musician. There's no way Miles Davis at that stage in his career, making In a Silent Way, had anything other than the tits in the room with him, and you can hear the keyboard players just like gone, solid gone, but it's gentle. But the guy, they're all like in it. And like I have in my room like bookshelves full of first editions of my absolute favorite ever books, because again, it's like they emanate the excellence that went into those books, those first editions. That's why I like to be near them, or being even just near musical instruments. There's something about musical instruments vibrate with every song that's been played on them, all the passion that has been held by them. The wood is absorbed, the strings absorbed, the songs that were composed on them, and the creative opening of the channel that happened around those guitars as those songs were composed, and those songs were facilitated by that guitar. So being around musical instruments as well, I think, is very conducive to good chi flow.
Oh, I love that. It's like there's a memory, there's an echo of resonance of that, the beautiful playing that has gone through them. I mean, I must say, I do like to nuzzle up to really beautiful guitars, thinking maybe I'll be able to play one day, apart from the odd random chords that sometimes I manage if I can just get my fingers to go around. But I mean, they are. You just look at these incredible instruments and just think, yeah, they're holding space for a master musician to come in and actually make them sing, make them work. I mean, masters they have to start somewhere as well, of course. And it's like with your qigong, just starting with standing. It might sound really boring to just stand, but if you let yourself stand in nature somewhere, I mean, I remember a place that I was in, northern Austria. I was there for 7 weeks about 4 years ago. And I just let go of all my practice completely. I just thought I just need a reset. I was going through the menopause. It's a bit of a time. And I just spoke, this river just kept beckoning me in just to stand on its banks. And from that standing, I just connected so deeply to all the elements around me. I'd become utterly immersed in the chi of nature, and I was there for hours. Thankfully it wasn't raining, although some days it did. But it was that invitation to become part of something much bigger, and I'm this little ant who's connected. But that point of connection, that I think we're all searching for connection, what is true connection, and I just find it a lot out in nature.
Yeah, I know. I wish I did more of doing that. I don't go out as much as I should.
Good.
But standing on purpose, it's one thing just to stand somewhere, but to stand deliberately.
Yes.
With consciousness, with presence.
Yes.
And be in the appreciation of that, and listening. Again, it's a yin thing. Again, if you go into nature and you have a hit off a pipe, you will hear the sort of leaves rustling in a different way. You will feel the breeze caressing your skin in a different way. It will invite you deeper. And then, after you've done it, that's only if you're having trouble sort of finding it. Like I was once in Hawaii. I'm not a big advocate of marijuana. I don't know why I'm talking about it so much on this thing, but I just do think that in the initial stages, it can really, really help. I was in Hawaii once with my then pregnant girlfriend, and we walked down to this amazing beach in, I think, Kauai or Maui, called Secrets Beach. And it was like fucking beautiful, as you can imagine, the walk there and the beach itself. And when we walked there, I walked out to the beach and I was just like, wow, this is fucking great. But my girlfriend at the time, she was like having she was having an experience I was not having. She was, fair enough, she was 8 months pregnant and she was a woman. So she was like absolutely getting a drug hit off this nature that I was not getting. But so I had literally just a tiny hit off whatever weed I was smoking. And then suddenly I was like, whoa, I fucking get it. I think that there are, again, if you're struggling to feel things like that, then it can give you something to refer to anyway. But those have been some of the earliest moments where I managed to. I think I've been lucky in the fact that the reason I've been able to feel it so much is because in the early stages I smoked pot.
Yeah, right. But also, as you're saying that,
I knew where it was. It's like being near Bruce Francis. When you do a workshop with Bruce Francis, it's a bit like, forget about the marijuana, just being near Bruce. You're just amazing at it because he's teaching by transmission as much as by rote. And that's why all the teachers around him, they go, yeah, I know you can feel it. Make sure you do a lot of practice when you're around Bruce, because when he goes away, it fades. And I had this experience in one of his retreats in Ibiza, when he splits up all the groups into two, advanced and beginner. And I definitely, is that you or me bleeping? Something outside.
I think it might be someone outside, yeah.
Oh, it stopped. So he divides all sort of 70 people into two groups, the advanced and the beginners. I always go in beginners. And I was late after lunch, and he doesn't wait. It's not like me in the workshop, we just wait for everyone to get in. On the moment, to the second of 2 o'clock, he begins the second half. If you're not there, it's your stupid fault. So I was like a few minutes late, and the group nearest the door was the advanced group. I would have had to cross the whole room to get to the beginners group. So as I came in at 2:03, I just sat with my mate who was in advanced, and just sat among the advanced people. And as I was sitting there, he's teaching two groups at the same time, and he's transmitting to two groups at the same time. He's fucking hardcore. as I'm sitting there, my lower Tantien just fucking turns on like a furnace, like I've never felt it before. I mean, I've felt my lower Tantien before, but I've never felt it like this. For a start, it was an inch in or an inch or two inside. It wasn't even near the surface. It was like deeper in, and I'd never quite felt that core fire before, that cauldron inside. And as I was breathing in and out, it was opening and closing all my joints. It was almost like it was somehow the breathing, like my whole body had become this very subtle bellows that was experiencing the chi all of the way through. Anyway, it was pretty wild. And at the end of the session, I said to my mate Servan, who I was sitting next to, who was one of the advanced people, he's one of his teachers, I said, fuck, the most amazing thing just started happening. I described what had happened. He goes, that's exactly what he's been teaching us all week. The opening and the closing and and it's like I had a total full-on transmission experience by sitting in the wrong place. So I didn't need any marijuana on that occasion. But I think anytime you have moments where you really, really, really feel it, it's like you've got to take an internal Polaroid, because there are times where it's hard to locate.
Yes.
And so it's really good to, if you've been lucky, to have a few experiences early on where it's undeniable, so that you have something to return to, a sense to return to.
That's right. There's a memory there. And once you've had that experience, it's always yours. You can remember that. No one can take it away from you.
And it's quite a good thing, forgetting about Qi, it's a good thing to do in trauma healing, forgetting about Qi or anything to do with that. It's like, if you can find that place where you feel comfortable and locate that place, have an undeniable experience of safety, rootedness, and comfort, then in other moments where you're having a pickle or a heartbreak, you've got this place you can return to, like a happy place, which doesn't have to be a beach or a forest. But it's really good, not just with Qi, but with all things, to make real Polaroid instant memories of the felt sense of good, safe moments.
Brilliant. Jamie Catto is here with us on the show, and we're going to go to a track now, not on the live, but this week, as I said earlier at the beginning of this transmission, word we're using at the moment, we're going to repurpose the audio for UK Health Radio. So we've chosen a track from your album with Alex Forster, the Internal album. And
I love that record.
Yeah, so do I. I really do. I thank you so much for creating it. And I do practice my Qi to some of the tracks. And I was just going through them thinking, which one can we choose? And then I was chatting to you before we came on live, and we both sort of agreed that the banana one was going to be the one, didn't we?
Yes, Beneath the Bananas, which is Alex's masterpiece of processing a lot of emotion. A lot of the tracks on this album were made to feel more. They're like instead of having marijuana, listen to this record. This record was supposed to have exactly the same effect, which was just to make the felt sense of tenderness, of yearning, of that can be sometimes, some tears can be hard to find to cry, especially as a guy. So it was an album to make us access feelings more.
I'll put a link to it after this has gone up. I'll put a link on the YouTube for people to get a handle on that. But yeah, beautiful. So we're just going to pretend that we've played that and come out of it the other side and carry on.
Great.
So that's Beneath the Bananas from the Jamie Catto and Alex Forster album Internal. And Jamie is with me here, currently on Qi Time, but also on OneQi. We're chatting about his journey into Qigong. And you mentioned Bruce Francis. So I was going to say, do you follow a strict lineage then? Are you a lineage bearing Qigong, or what? This kind of question is that?
I take my teachings where I can find them in all things, not just in Qigong. Like, you know, if Servan goes, Bruce is in town and we all go into the thing, I'll go along. If Servan himself wants to show me something, I tell you, I don't follow any strict lineage, but I will say there's one thing through Bruce that absolutely massively changed my life. And that was all through my life, especially my adult life, I had shocking lower back problems, to the point where if I reached for a banana unconsciously, I could be on the sofa for 2 days, you know, like just suddenly. I'm very hypermobile, but just for other reasons as well, you know, my back would go at the slightest, and I'd walk around with like one hip sticking out, like really looking weird, things sliding around. And to the point where I couldn't dry my ankles. I'd have to put the foot up on the bath to dry my ankles. I couldn't bend down and do that for risk of not getting back up. And I used to have like chronic sciatica down both legs, like pulsing in my ankles, like really nasty compression. And one weekend, Bruce messaged me to say, I'm teaching something this weekend in Brighton that I teach probably once every 5 or 10 years. I never do it. Very powerful. I think with your bad back, you should come to it. And it was a 2 or 3 day thing in Brighton. It was called Bending the Bow. And I did the workshop, and it's an amazing way of you kind of with your hands, you connect your fingers to each vertebrae, and one by one, you find the tendon down the inside of the spine, not the outside, the tendon down the heart side of it. Mm-hmm. And by kind of, you find each vertebrae and you slightly kind of pull back. It's very difficult to describe because I'm not a Qigong teacher, and it kind of opens up each one. You kind of go vertebrae by vertebrae, mm-hmm. and pulling, and it's like bending the bow, doing that. It kind of, mm-hmm. Anyway, I did that weekend with him, and the day after that, I've never had the slightest twinge in my back since. It was like 10 years ago. Wow. And like I bend straight down, dry my ankles on the floor. Like I just never have, I haven't had a single back twinge, let alone sciatica, let alone a back going out since that day.
So what do you think happened? What was the effect of this bending the bow and the fingers and the vertebra?
It's a mystery because I don't remember during the workshop. I don't remember during the workshop feeling like, wow, everything's releasing. Everything's, I don't know what happened, but just maybe he gave me a secret extra little blast out of the generosity of his soul. I mean, I was practicing it daily for a good while after that workshop.
Right. So to continue on, but yeah, there's some.
Yeah, sorry. It must have released a lot of stuff that was blocked or something.
But there's something about space here. It's a bit of a favorite topic of mine. When we breathe space into our, compressed system, it then gives space for the healing to occur. So I wonder if there was a spacious quality being invited into your vertebra along with all the magic too that he was bringing.
I expect so. Yeah, I think the very fact that I even bothered to turn up is an affirmation of, come on, spine, we love you.
It's time to move on. So and Qigong can help us so much with our physicality, but also how we feel about ourselves. And I know it's something that you share with a lot of your clients, students, disciples. I think you even mentioned that they are around this self-kinding, this compassionate piece. And I think Qigong is a very compassionate healing practice that can be fun as well. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't have to be boring, but this, just being a bit easier on yourself. And I think laughing at yourself, that you say about, it's adorable, I've done something like a bit crazy again, I've done that old pattern, I've done it again.
And you find all your failures more adorable than the last.
Yes,
essential to a happy life.
Yes. So is this an extension of the Qigong coming through you now as a way of hardening?
That attitude, the Taoist attitude of lighten up, folks.
Yes.
The Taoist attitude of it was like that, 'twas ever thus. You're not here to control it. That's the natural flow of things, including your tomfoolery, including that heartbreak, including that so-and-so died. This is the way of the Tao. Like, what are you going to do? Try and control the universe? So practicing deep acceptance for what happens and being realistic about what you can and can't control, and only controlling things when I believe creatively, and I've found to be a useful practice for me, is to have the yang always at the service to the yin in all things in life. So the yang doing is led by the yin listening. So, I mean, they're both equally important, but the yin first goes, this is true, we need to go over there, or this needs to happen. And then the yang jumps into action to manifest what the yin realized. But it is in service to the yin. You know your truth when you're in your yin. Often when we're in our yang, we're busy doing, controlling, and it wasn't always maybe the most aligned thing, because we jumped into doing before we definitely took some peaceful time to listen deeply. So the listening part is the yin. I would say. I mean, I'm sure there are Qi people listening to this going, how dare he be spreading this spurious information? He's getting it all wrong. I know there are some hardcore Qi people out there. I do apologize. I am, as I said, making up my own Chinese lineage, but as I understand, I'm only expressing it as I understand it, and the yin listening, receiving from the yang of heaven, the great inspiration, and then it comes into my yin, and then my yang of earth, Jamie's yang as a little person, goes and tries to manifest that in form, whether it be making a film or an album or running a workshop or, you know, cooking a meal. It comes from, this is a good idea. Yes, this is aligned. It's a good idea. Listening, good. It's been sanctioned by the listening. Then the action of the doing is allowed or encouraged.
Yes, makes it happen. Well, it's the dance of the yin yang, isn't it? You know, you can't have too much yin; you'd be a sloppy mess on the floor doing nothing.
Yeah.
You need that spark of yin.
We could all do with a lot more.
We could do with a lot more yin, giving yourself some space. So. But also that piece of what you just said about there might be somebody that says this is the wrong way. This is one of the whole reasons we've sort of, a collective of us has gathered together to form OneQi. It kind of, you know, we're just listening to the Tao. It's almost daring us. And there's going to be some people that don't want to join in. But there are quite a few different schools running through this community hub now. And the conversations we have are, they're always like, they're respectful, but they're quite edgy as well. You know, we kind of take it to like, well, what's going on there? But we're actually all genuinely curious about different ways of approaching Qigong, because really it is said that there are as many different varieties of Qigong as there are people that practice it. Yeah. Because essentially you make it your own. And that's what you're saying. You're honoring your teachers, of course, but in order to make it work in your life, it has to become your Qigong.
Yeah, your own felt experience. I always, in all things, in all the workshops we do, whether it be a body thing or when I'm saying to people, you know, we often do an inner smile, organ by organ meditation. Mm-hmm. And I say, you know, breathe it, feel it like this. But I say that if it's not being felt, you know, like often we talk to characters as well. Like we summon the inner critic and we have conversations with our victim and we have conversations with our little child inside who's scared. You know, we talk to parts of ourselves. And I kind of say, you know, maybe it'll be visual for you or maybe it'll be more of a frequency felt sense, like however it manifests for you, that's right. Don't try and do it my way. I'm just trying to sort of open up all the different ways that it could be. But I think that Ram Dass, my favorite teacher, talks about the golden chain of righteousness, which is wanting to be a good meditator or a good Qigong practicer. You know, we've been so brainwashed to do well in school and that we get the praise and the love when we do it correctly. And, you know, somebody once said, unless you're going to do it correctly, don't do it at all. And we've got all kinds of ancestral stuff that make you not only judgmental of yourself, but judgmental of other people who you think aren't doing it right. And just the edge or the addiction to whatever perceived notion you carry of doing it right, which is only yours, can actually be a huge hindrance to the natural flow of your Qi.
Yeah, it can. Trying to do it like someone else, and yet the old way of being with the Chinese masters, that would you just be with them? Then again, it's the transmission thing. You'd have to try and work out what's happening. But here in the West, the mind needs to get involved. And you were talking about the yin and the yang working on behalf of the yin. I kind of feel that around the heart and the mind working as one, that the mind is there on behalf of the heart, but the heart is actually, well, it's got a yin and yang component, hasn't it? So it's getting to the truth of what is occurring. And do you think that the language of Qi is a language of truth?
Well, as much as wind is, or the waves on the ocean.
Yeah, you can trust them, can't you? It's going to be wind, it's going to be waves. Not going to try and be anything else but that.
It's going to be Qi, you know, and sometimes it's going to be blocked and yucky and make you feel nauseous. Yeah. And sometimes it's going to be expansive and exciting and make you feel sexy. And, you know, we try and be the water that's flowing down the mountain that finds the easiest way down the mountain, rather than dam the water, put it on a bridge over here, get a cup full, filter it. You know, as much as possible, we try and go with the feelings that are happening rather than enforce our will on them to change them. So if you're feeling jealous or you're feeling anxious, we smell and taste into the quality of that anxiety in a welcoming, curious way, so that it can be encouraged to flow through and go wherever it's going, like a passing cloud. But if I get too busy trying to get rid of my anxiety, or breathe it away, or add this component, or direct it over here, the moment I start becoming the traffic policeman too much for it, then it's actually often an expression of me trying to get away, escape it, me trying to get rid of something. And that can often magnify the painful or difficult feeling rather than actually get rid of it. So an agenda to get rid of is something we need to get rid of.
Except that there is a natural release and restore action that occurs when you plug into the planet. Your system will naturally be releasing what is ready to go. You might not be conscious of it.
By naturally turning towards it, though, not by naturally trying to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah. You're not pushing it out, are you? Letting it.
No, you're saying, oh, hello, you taste like this, you smell like that, you're green, you're floaty, you're smoky, you're in my solar plexus. Hello, hello, oh, goodbye.
Yeah. When things are witnessed, they can flow more easier. It's when they're suppressed.
And they're welcomed. And when we give them resistance, they take longer and they turn into molasses.
Oh, molasses, sticky black stuff.
Yeah, it gets a little bit like blocked when we're too busy trying to control it or escape it, because we're empowering our resistance. You know, like Ram Dass, again, is one of my, I just love Ram Dass, and he talks about, you know, attraction and repulsion, you know, an aversion. When you have an aversion to something, when you're busy, when you give up smoking, but you're like busy not doing it, you know, he says, I haven't smoked for 3 years, 4 months, 2 days and 6 seconds. He goes, you're going to die from not smoking. Because if you're pushing something away, it's still got you.
Right. Yeah. But aren't we all addicted to something?
Oh yeah, I'm sure we are.
Yeah. But look, what do you think Qigong has given you the most?
The ability to feel and turn towards feelings, and therefore allow the body's genius plumbing system to recalibrate them or release them or do whatever needs to be done with them. To have that skill or that ability to turn towards, be curious, and be a willing participant in the body's incredible genius plumbing system doing what it does, I think is like the greatest gift anyone can have.
Well, look, thank you so much for being here to chat about your Qigong journey. Would you like to share another track with us before we leave?
We were going to play this song from my solo album, ironically, which is called Yin.
Okay.
Because we recorded a Yin album and a Yang album, and we recorded the same 12 songs once, like you're going to hear them now, gentle and sort of spacious. But we did exactly the 12 songs with a full-on rock and roll band. And those are the Yang versions, which I think I might have taken them off Spotify. So they're quite rowdy. They'll come out one day. But there's a song called Child Come Home, which is one day long ago I thought I was writing a song to my soul to start a communication. And it ended up, when I played it back afterwards, it was like, oh, I think it's a song from my soul to me. I thought I was writing to it, but it was writing to me.
Well, brilliant. Thank you. I love that idea of having songs and different albums, a Yin version and a Yang version. That just sounds like such fun to kind of like invent all that around. Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for being here again. How can people find out more about you and what you get up to?
I guess I'm everywhere. JamieCatto.com, Jamie Catto on Facebook, Jamie Catto on fucking Instagram. What's he doing now? You know, I'm very easy to find. I'm very lonely.
Oh, bless you. Well, thanks for being in our community here on OneQi on UK Health Radio. It's been really great hanging out with you chiefly again. Thanks so much, man.
Beautiful.
Made the Qi